Hello, I'm Kim Bailey. Welcome back to my 4 easy steps to entering your first floral art competition. Well, it's time for the butterflies in the stomach. Competition day is here. We need to get to the venue and start putting your design together. Let's get into step 3, transporting your design. I've assumed for this step that you've decided to construct your design at the competition venue and not transport it ready for staging. In your planning notes from step 2, you'll have a list of all the requirements for your design, having practiced putting the design together. You know exactly what you need to take, so how hard will it be to transport your design? Here's what I'll cover in step 3, transporting your design. Firstly, you need to decide on your transport vehicle. You'll need to organise the transport of your plant material, including deciding the best way for fresh plant material to be transported. You'll need to pack all the sundries you need, pack all the tools you need, take some refreshments for you whilst you are staging your design, and have a disaster recovery plan. How are you going to get all these things to the competition? I know a competitor in her 80s who comes to a competition by bus, carrying all she requires for her staging in a design box. She is very, very organised. I'm going to assume that you'll be thinking about a car and have based my advice on that. Not only do you want to get to the competition safely, but you also want your design elements to get there undamaged. Firstly, do not assume that your design will fit into your vehicle without dismantling it. You need to make sure there is ample space for all you need for your design. This is equally important when you are doing more than one design or taking another competitor or assistant with you in the vehicle. So when you're deciding on the vehicle, choose based on the amount and type of materials you're transporting. Remember to check on parking facilities, the height and length restrictions at the unloading areas, and whether you can get close enough, or do you need to take a trolley or other transport for your supplies. Moving on to what we're packing into the vehicle. Buckets of water are not the most efficient way to transport your fresh plant material. In fact, almost all plant material can travel out of water with the correct packing technique. Damage to plant material is very easy to achieve when you're transporting at any distance, large or small. Again, think about how far you have to carry your plant material from your vehicle to the staging areas. A big box carried from your work area at home to your vehicle might be an impossible task if you have to leave your vehicle a long way from the competition area. Look into ways to transport fresh plant material if you're not going to use buckets. And if you're not using buckets to transport your fresh plant material, make sure you do pack water in buckets for when you get to the competition venue in case there are none available there. There are many choices in collapsible trolleys these days. Think about whether this would help you when you're unloading at the competition venue. Take some spares of plant material for emergencies. Here are some alternatives for transporting your fresh plant material. Although the last one might be something of a challenge, particularly for me. All the plant material is in the vehicle. What next? Don't assume that there will be a trading table. Take all the sundry items you think you might need. Wires, tape, glue, pins, all that sort of thing. At a pinch, you could probably get what you needed from another competitor, but it's best to be independent. Other competitors are organised, so should you be. You should allow for your mechanics to need some adjustment. Learn some basic replacement methods for lack of or damage to sundries in your mechanics. Simple methods like replacing mossing pins with bent wires. In fact, wires are a very useful multi-purpose sundry. Okay, is that all we need for the designs? What else will be going in the vehicle with us? Well, you need to ensure that your bases, if you're using them, are packed appropriately, and drapes and any other embellishments that you're taking with you. A rubbish bin, a floor protector mat, a stool if you think that you won't be able to stand to put your design together for any length of time, a step ladder or a ladder if you've got to have any height in your design, spare wires, elastic bands, glue, screws. Up to this point, what you physically pack into the vehicle relates specifically to your design. Now let's have a quick look at our 2 examples and see how the packing list developed for each of them. For citrus, glass and grass, here's my list ready for transporting. I need to wrap the glass shells individually, probably with a towel for cushioning, and ensure that I do not put anything on top of them or in the vehicle that might create a crack or breakage because of too much or uneven weight on them. The wine glasses will need to be wrapped separately and placed in a box. I'll check all the pieces of fruit beforehand for marks or blemishes and then wrap them individually so that they do not bruise during the transport phase. The long grass spears can be taped into a bundle and placed inside a cardboard tube like you would get in a fabric store, and this protects the full length of the grass in transport. Alternatively, I could transport a small bundle in a large plastic drink bottle, and that would also give them a little bit of a water source for the journey. Because these particular grasses don't need a water source during the journey, I'll use the cardboard tube method. Now, moving to anything goes, the structural support for this is an upright rod and a solid metal base. Originally, it was a standard lamp, and now without the lamp attached, it's a most useful piece of equipment. The rod can be unscrewed from the heavy base, and the rod itself dismantles into 3 pieces. I have these pieces marked so I can quickly reassemble it in the correct sequence. My pieces of twisted bark need to be bundled together to keep them safe from damage, and the large vine has some thinner sections on it that could snap off during transport if they're moved around too much, so I'll tie these to the main section of the vine for transporting. All the plant material except the lilies can be packed into a box lined with wet newspaper. This will keep them fresh enough to use, and if required I could always revitalise them in a bucket of water when I start putting the design together. The lilies have had the cut stem ends waxed. This will keep the water in the stem for the duration of the show, so I don't need a separate water source for them within the design. It's one of those contemporary techniques I mentioned in the planning step of this design. I'll need to wrap the waxed ends in tissue so that there's no damage to the wax during transport. Now the vehicle's packed with all our design needs, I'm going to talk about a few items that will always be with you regardless of the design requirements. Firstly, your tool bag. Different to sundries, tools should never be borrowed or loaned to others. Mark your tools so that you can recognise them easily and keep them in a bag of their own. It's a good idea to learn how to use 2 or 3 multi-purpose tools for a variety of tasks. Now when I talk about your tool bag, I include not just your tool bag, but larger items like saws and hammers that won't always fit into your tool bag, a handy pack for immediate use where your main tool bag is not being used or it's not practical to use it, a tape measure, a hand towel and some first aid, particularly band-aids. I also recommend packing some water for yourself and food to keep your energy levels up once you start constructing your design. Staging will usually take between 2 and 6 hours, so you should plan for a break during this time, even if it's just for 10 minutes. Food that takes you a while to chew will give you some thinking time. Don't assume that refreshments will be supplied by the competition organisers or even available commercially, either during the time that you're staging or immediately after staging while you're waiting for the judging to be completed. Ask yourself, what would you consume in the time that you will be staging, that 4 or 6 hour period? Now here's a little bit to think about whilst you are actually on your way to the competition. Even the most planned designs have the potential to be troublesome, so have a backup plan in mind. Your plan should be simple to determine if you've recorded all the steps in your design stage. There'll always be a challenge in every design. Have a plan for things you suspect might not work. Don't panic, just let your mind take over on the automatic path that you've thought about on the way to the competition. Here is an example from my experience. This design was for a state championship, so obviously a very important competition. On the way to the competition, I thought about the stand and the potential for it to fail. For this design, the base is a large piece of wood with an upright metal rod that supports the plant material vertically. The palm spade had a hole drilled almost all the way through so that it would sit on the top of the rod, balanced, and remain upright in a vertical position so that I could place the rest of the plant material on the top of it. When I was staging the design, I couldn't get the space to balance and needed to find some way of securing it to the metal rod so that the rest of the design could be completed. I used heavy-duty wire covered with green paper and curled the ends of it so that curling became part of the base design, taking it from disaster into second place. In summary then, for step 3, transporting your design, You need to firstly ensure that what you want to get to the competition venue will fit into your vehicle, both in terms of quantity of material and the size of the items you need to transport. Don't force items into your vehicle. You'll still have to get them out at the other end of your journey, and they may be damaged either in transit or when you try and remove them from the vehicle. Structures that can be dismantled and reassembled for a variety of design styles are well worth the initial investment. Think about different ways of transporting your fresh plant material. A bucket of water is not the only way, and often not the most efficient way. In my experience, it usually means a wet car floor and damaged plant material. Carry extra of both plant material and structural mechanics for the just-in-case scenario. In your planning step, you will have worked out the areas of your design that might cause you some trouble, so make sure you have options for these in your transported materials. I think our tool bags are living things. They seem to grow of their own accord the longer you're competing. When you're starting out, all you need is a bag about the size of a makeup bag with secateurs, scissors, pliers, a knife, a few wires, glue and a hand towel. In fact, at the last World Championships, this is all I took into the competition room. You should know from your practice sessions with this design exactly what tools you need to complete the design. Food and water for you is very important, as it's too easy to lose track of time in the excitement and concentration of getting your design ready for judging. Given that you'll be at this task for at least 2 hours in most cases, I also believe you should have some type of food that will give you energy to keep your brain ticking over in this competitive environment. Use your travel time to think through your design and be prepared to improvise when things don't work. See how easy it's getting? We're already at step 4, staging your design.